Half day, we are at Mr. and Mrs. Benavente's home here in Aslito. Former Lieutenant Governor Diego Benavente, Mrs. Vicky Benavente, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tomas.
And Mr. Benavente, you have shared with some family members and friends and some in the community about a recent diagnosis. This is your first public on-camera interview. Tell us about what you learned.
Well, it's about 2 months ago now. Actually, today marks exactly the 2 months when I was diagnosed after blood results came back from the cancer center in Hawaii, the screening center, and the oncologist here at the CHCC read the result, and I was diagnosed with acute leukemia. I understand that two of the deadliest diseases are pancreatic cancer and acute leukemia, and I have that. And I promised my kids and family that I would seek a second opinion, and so Vicky and I actually flew to one of the top cancer centers in Taiwan. It's called the China Medical University Hospital, where we met with an oncologist there, went through the blood works, got bone marrow procedure, only to confirm that in fact the original diagnosis of acute leukemia is confirmed, and that the further tests actually describe which one it is, because under acute leukemia you either have the Philadelphia chromosome positive or the Philadelphia chromosome negative, and I have the negative, which doctors have explained to me that it's actually the worst of the two. So given the description of what the treatment would be like, just months of radiation, chemotherapy, injections in the spinal cord, bone marrow transplant, and in critical care hospital. The treatment's not done just anywhere, right? As a matter of fact, Dr. Brett, the oncologist here, already started making appointments for me to go to the University of Southern California, the medical center there, because he says the reason why it's called acute leukemia is because it actually takes your life very, very short after being diagnosed. We thought about it, we talked about it with my wife and my children, and I was able to convince everyone that it was just not something I wanted to do. I didn't want to go off on certain treatment process, months and months of suffering, and maybe not even sure if I would ever come back and lead a normal life. Some have said to me quality versus quantity, and quality for me right now is really to stay here in Saipan, be with family and friends, continue to do what I love to do, play golf, go fishing. I'm still helping out with the Lieutenant Governor's office. I look forward to waking up in the morning to drive up there and put in my 2 cents worth about what I feel needs to be done to resolve our many challenges here in the Commonwealth. That is what I love to do, and whether that's in just a few more weeks or a couple of months that the doctors have said, I might have time. That to me is just much better than being in Los Angeles for 6 months, 1 year, not knowing what's going to happen to me. So that's where we're at, and I'm really content. I'm so happy that, not happy, but I'm glad that my family have supported me in this decision. And Tomas, I've been blessed. I've been so fortunate, not just with my political career, but with my personal life, and being here in the CNMI. I feel that to to the point where I'm satisfied with what I've been, who I am, what I've been able to do. And so leaving is really not such a hard decision for me, a hard feeling for me. I'm so content.
And so, as you said, the doctors have said that you have a few weeks or a few months. And I think sometimes in life, people often ask themselves, what would I do if I knew when my time was up?
That's right.
And you were given the timeline from the doctors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's your reflection on how you're going to spend the time they say you have left?
Yeah, it's so true, right? I mean, who has? Not too many people has the chance to be able to take care of things, right? I mean, in a small island with big families here, every once in a while, a death in the family just creates many conflicts and friction among family members. Here I am, having that opportunity to make sure that things are settled, things are squared away, and that there's no additional suffering by any of my family members, and that's something that to me is another blessing, right? If I may just point this out before I forget, normally leukemia happens to younger folks, right? Adolescent, teens, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, right? And so. And it's as the oncologist told me, it's not genetic. It's not what I ate the past 66 years of my life, or not what I've been doing. I believe that you're just kind of born with that deficiency in your blood system or in your bone marrow. And so I was actually blessed for 66 years before the leukemia kicks in. So I was given the chance to do so much before the leukemia, or else I would have been sick when I was 5 years old, or 12 years old, and been suffering all this time, going through treatments, like many of our kids. Sadly, many of our kids are having to go through when they get this disease. So, hey, there's just more blessings that I realize that, hey, and that's why I'm so content. I think the Lord is, I was joking to my auntie after I told her, and she was crying, and after we were leaving, she's crying, and I said, Auntie Sil, don't worry too much about me, because when I asked the Lord if He could just grant me another year or two, the Lord looked down at me and says, "What more do you want, Diego? You've done so much. I mean, you've lived a full life, right?" And that's the kind of feeling that I have right now.
And I want to talk about the legacy that you're leaving behind. Diego Benavente, the House Speaker, the Representative, the Lieutenant Governor, the Regional Leader, the list goes on, right? The Fisherman, the Pescador, right? I think is your favorite one.
Yes.
But Mrs. Benavente, if I could ask you just for your reflection on the time and the news of the diagnosis.
It has been a tough time, Thomas, but his positivity, his courage is giving me strength. But yeah, there are moments where I can't even talk, like now.
Yeah. And as I was saying, you very much, both of you have lived a big part of your life in the public eye. Mm-hmm. A lot of you know you through maybe some of the news headlines that we'll go through later with you. But who is Mr. Diego Benavente outside of Capitol Hill? How would you describe your husband?
He is the calm father, loving husband, strict grandfather, loving as well. But he has given me everything that I've ever hoped for in life. So.
And I know you both met in your teen years, right? Was it at Mount Carmel?
It was.
Yeah.
When you were 16?
16 years old.
Tell us about how you met each other.
Classmates.
Yes. Classmates. She had just moved. Her family had just moved. Her mom and dad
Guam.
and her brothers and sisters moved from Guam. I think her dad retired in Gulf Guam. Mm-hmm. and moved over here, started a business, and she was in my junior year in high school, and she started flirting with me, and the rest was history.
Oh, my mom's from Saipan. I was sitting in the front of the classroom, so he was behind me, and whenever I looked back, he'd be staring at me, so goo eyes.
Yeah,
But my mom is from Saipan, so my dad had made a promise to my mom when he retired from Guam, he would move the family here to Saipan and be closer to her family. And that's what he did. He moved here, built a house, and that's when I went to high school, because we were the youngest 3 of the 9. So I'm 7, 8, and 9 children got to go to school here in Saipan and graduated here. We were very, very blessed to have that opportunity to move here. Yeah, I mean, those days it was 2-lane highway, no traffic lights. The airport was a Quonset hut. The jets were propeller planes. Life was quite simple, and family life was everything. So meeting him and thinking about starting a family with him was so perfect, I think. They say, life happens for a reason. I think that happened when my dad retired. We came here, and I met him at school. I was like, wow, I never thought I would marry a chamorro. I thought I would marry a pilot and go fly around the world, because I love to travel. And I thought that
50 years ago, Thomas. 50 years ago.
1975. So he's grounded me, not grounded in a bad way, but grounded in a way that I know what is important in life. I hope.
Yeah. And your first election was in 1987.
Yes.
And you told me you actually lost that election with 6 votes. Right?
And it was interesting because we had the store, we had Diego's Mar and Susupi, and we heard that there was a pocket meeting, a political gathering in our neighbor. So I walked over there, and the committee and the candidates, there were 2 candidates at that time representing Precinct 2. And one of the candidates didn't show up to that pocket meeting and hasn't been very cooperative with the committee. So I walk up there, and all the members looked at me and says, we need to replace that guy with that guy. And this was during the election. And they ended up convincing me to run. So it was the middle of the election already. I wasn't the original candidate. And one of the original candidates ended up stepping down. I came in the middle of the election and lost by 6 votes that election.
And several decades later, you're still in public service. I'm curious, 1987, Mr. Diego Benavente, in 1987, what was the initial appeal to you to want to enter a life of public service? What made you say, I'm going to put my name in and run again and run again?
I'll never forget this, 1978, the first election of the governor. Mariana's Variety was headline, was we-elected Governor Carlos Camacho. And I saw that article when I was in College of Southern Idaho in Twin Falls, Idaho. And I looked at that article and I said, someday I'm going to be governor of the Commonwealth. And I'm getting goosebumps because that was it. But, and that was 1978, and then, 1981 we moved back. I didn't run till 87, so it was 10 years late, almost 10 years later. But as a businessman at the time, there were some concerns that I had. We didn't have paved roads in front of my house, and dust was blowing into our store on a regular basis. So there were some issues that we were faced with that I thought it's maybe time for me to run for office and try to make a difference.
And in 1990, that was your first year. You served 6 terms, half of those as speaker. When you look back in that era, what would you say are some of your most memorable or biggest accomplishments?
There were so many, right? And because those were the good years, those were the boom years, right? And, I was so fortunate to be a part of it, because if I'm not mistaken, the year 1990, the CNMI government budget was like 60 million. And then 91, it was like 90 million. In 92, it was like 110 million. And it just kept climbing, all the way to 1998, when the economy started going down. The tourism industry started being a problem. The garment industry was having issues. And so that's when then we went up, if I'm not mistaken, we went up as high as $260 million in the budget at the time, before it started going back down. And much like it did most recently with the casino industry bringing it up, and then now we're back down to barely surviving again, right? But there was so many things that we were able to do because, and talk about paving roads, man. As a representative of Precinct 2, I think we paved like almost 100% of the roads in both Chalancanoa and Susupi, again, because we had all the money that we needed back then. And I think that's why I won every election. Was because all I got to do during the campaign is remind them who paved the road. And it was a big issue for the village. If I don't know if you know, talk to someone older who has lived in the village with no pavement, because the dust is crazy. It's just, you know, or mud or potholes. And so paving the roads, and again, it was just one of those fortunate time when there was enough money to do all of that, right? And before I forget, Tomas, that, you know, one of the things that I do, and I think I told you already, that I loved every moment of my 20 years as an elected official. Every moment. I mean, I just loved it. But I hated every moment of the campaign. And I just, the thing that I would always say during the campaign, and my first thing I would say as I get up and hold the microphone, is thank the people of Chalancanoa and Susupi at the time, because later on I ran in Precinct 1, or as lieutenant governor, but I was always thank the people for the vote of confidence. And honestly, that, you know, talk about what's the proudest, most special thing for me in my 20 years in public office is being elected. Basically, having the people's confidence. You know, whenever I would debate with new members in the legislature, I mean in the House, in the 16 years I was in the House, and they're, you know, they try to act smart and tough, and I said, you know what? Always remember, to be elected the first time, it's not that hard, because all you got to do is make promises, and people will elect you. But getting re-elected is tough. And how many elections I ran and got re-elected? That's just, to me, that's the most, it's the most heartwarming feeling. Special. To be appreciated.
And what made you decide to seek the executive seat? Do you remember the moment where you were in the House and you said, I'm going to run with
John?
Former Governor Benavente?
So the previous election, John had already asked me to run with him. I was the vice speaker at the time. And Tom Villagomez, former Senator Tom Villagomez, was the speaker. But John asked me if I would run with him. But it happened that my uncle, my mom's brother, the former governor, Pete Tenorio, Uncle Pete had expressed his interest in running for governor that term. So I had to tell John that I can't. I can't run against my uncle, and that's covered in the articles that's there, because I saw a whole bunch of it being interviewed about my decision not to run. But the following term, with the issue with the garment industry and the battles we fought with the previous administration, I mean, with when I was speaker, I think John and I ended up being very consistent in our policy decisions in the Commonwealth, whether it's the garment industry and the abuses of workers here, or, you know, the federalization of key controls like our minimum wage, and those were issues that I thought that John and I kind of were consistent. So that election, when he asked me to run with him, I said yes, and the rest was history. I mean, that was a special election for us, the 1991 election.
And afterwards, you went back to the House.
Yes.
And so what brought you back to the House?
I loved every moment of my political career. And so I had, of course, after we lost in the 95 election, so we were out of office in January of 1996, I had to sit out. I don't even remember what I did. I think I ended up going to Ghost Gym and working out for
some farming.
Some farming and some, but that election we had moved up to this house, or moved here. And I thought it would be easier to win here, right? Even though it's a bigger precinct than precinct 2, and that's because this is where all my family, most of my family lives. So definitely would have been easy. So I decided to run for the House here in precinct 1, won in the 10th legislature and won again in the 11th legislature. No, not the 10th and 11th, I'm sorry. It'll be 17 and 18?
Yeah, more further.
Don't remember.
Yeah, it's quite some time to cover. So
Right.
but I know you still are serving the Commonwealth. You're helping, assisting in the Lieutenant Governor Dennis Mandiola's office.
Yeah.
Even with the time you have left, why is that important to you?
You know, we have a lot of challenges currently, really, really do. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that even as the Senate President, when Dennis was the Senate President and he asked for my help, I said, I'll do it. I'll do it for $1 a year. That's just how much I want to be a part of it. And we did. We signed $1 a year contract. And then, of course, as when the late governor passed and he was sworn in as lieutenant governor, he asked me if I could please, he needed my help even more, because as a former lieutenant governor, he felt I could maybe guide him and advise him. And I said, sure, I would do it, and I'm happy to do it. This is our island, right? This is our people. This is my family lives here, my children, my grandchildren. I wish I could continue to do what I can to help. I really, really wish I had run for governor. I felt like if I did, I felt like I could have made a difference. But because I didn't, at least now I can contribute to this administration, hopefully, to see if we can resolve some of those many, many challenges.
Later on, we'll have a different segment going through some of the articles spanning your entire career, and I can't help but notice, even as a younger person, that a lot of the headlines tend to repeat themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, now at the tail end of your life and career, what do you see as some of the most persistent challenges that the Commonwealth just can't seem to get over? And how has, just the state of the Commonwealth and politics changed over the decades that you've seen it? I think we were so fortunate that we decided to be a Commonwealth, to be part of the United States. And we had that opportunity because unlike Palau, that has the natural beauty, the ability and the opportunity to be an independent country and survive and really prosper. Some of the islands in Micronesia don't have that same opportunity, and I dare say that even the Commonwealth doesn't have that. And we have been so fortunate that our relationship with the United States has kind of kept us afloat. Sometimes barely breathing, but we're still floating. The challenge has always been the limited local revenues that we have and the limited opportunities. We messed up with the garment industry. We messed up with the casino industry. I wish that we could do more in our tourism industry. I think it's the clean industry. I think it's the
good industry. It's the safe industry for our people that live here in our islands. It's been frustrating to see that our leaders have not continue to make this priority, and now it's too late. If there was one thing that I regret as an elected member, elected leader, is that we didn't save for the rainy day. And back then, when I talked a little bit earlier about the increase in budget every year, that I really, really wish that we had saved for the rainy day. Rainy days come in, the reduction in tourists from Japan. Rainy days could be electing somebody like Donald Trump, who's decided to cut a lot of the programs that we survive off. And we didn't. So now, our legislature is currently trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And I still don't agree that borrowing money is the right decision to do, especially when you can't even promise that you can repay that borrow. But at the same time, you can't compromise public service. I just wish that the priorities would be resolved. That's another challenge, really. There was I wish that we were able to reprioritize the government. I know a lot of our government agencies, it's about jobs for our constituents, and we're stuck with that at sometimes. But again, those could have been avoided if we had saved for this rainy day that we're faced with right now.
And no doubt about it, you're still part of trying to find the solutions at the Lieutenant Governor's office.
And I like the Lieutenant Governor's aggressiveness and leadership. He's a very intelligent individual who I'm enjoying, who I'm kind of happy to work with, right? Because he takes my advice and seriously. And
you mentioned Palau. You have a very special relationship with the rest of Micronesia. You've been an ambassador of sorts, right, to Micronesia. You even serve on the Pacific Development Bank board, and I think you're a lifetime appointment, right?
Yeah.
And I know you said you have always been regionally minded. Why is it important to think like that?
Again, one of the many fortunate blessings, is that opportunity to be appointed to sit as a member of the board of directors of the Association of Pacific Islands Legislature, APIL, which is a group of legislators throughout the Micronesian and regional governments. And that's when I met people, leaders, who I felt I learned from. And I've always felt that we could all learn from each other, whether it's learning from the successes of Palau or the challenges of one of the FSM states. It really helps our ability to try to navigate our own government, right? And so from then on, I just felt that it was important for me to attend every single meeting of the Association of Pacific Islands Legislature. And I just remember this, Tomas. Every election, not every election, but during elections, one of my biggest fear about losing the election is not because I'm no longer a member of the legislature, but that I won't be able to attend the APIL meetings annually. It was such a... because I enjoyed the trips in, but it was also the opportunity to meet up with friends and a great opportunity to learn. And we've always pushed for regional strength. As individual islands, we're not that strong, but as a group of governments together, we have that unified strength, if you will. Just together, we're stronger kind of position. So that's why I've always been kind of a regional-minded person. In the years that after retiring and helping with the party, I would always advise the elected leaders is that go off on these meetings, go off on and visit the islands, attend the APIL meetings, because you'll learn so much from the wisdom of so many people. There are some really smart leaders throughout our region that we can all learn from.
I now wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about your early days in fishing. Yep. I know that's really important to you, and you still fish. I think there's a derby this weekend.
Tomorrow.
Right? You're looking forward to it.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Tell us about how you got into fishing and just what you enjoy most about it.
So my dad had a fish market, so growing up, and he had several boats, and I think that was my issue with net fishing later on in my life, because my dad had all these nets, big nets, but of course there were abundant fish back then. And so I grew up fishing with my family. I grew up fishing with my father. I grew up on boats. As a teen, even before teen years, I was going out there fishing in the open ocean. And through high school, and then left and came back, we decided to open a fish market. And not too long after we came, and that fish market, we of course had to buy boats, and so I started going fishing sometimes myself. I did have fishermen that would go out and fish for our market, for our store, but it's just something that I talk about doing something that you love. It's, whether it's career or work, or you always find it enjoyable even at work if you love your work. And I think the hard work of owning a business and getting up early in the morning to open, staying late to close, and cleaning the store, and cleaning fish, and cleaning the boats, and those were hard, but it was okay because we loved it, right? And one of the things that we became very passionate about is getting on the boat and just going out. On weekends we just say let's go, and so we always say this. Our number one love is just being on the boat and going out. Catching a fish is bonus these days, right? We don't have a market anymore, so it's just that bonus, meaning we get to eat sashimi when you get back, right?
Yeah.
Have fresh fish. But even if we went out and not catch anything, it'd still be a great time in the ocean. And then this past few years is being successful in our fishing derbies throughout the region, right? I've won fishing derbies in Palau. I've won fishing derbies in Pohnpei. We've won Saipan twice, which is there's only 5 boats that have actually won Saipan twice. Nobody has won it more than 2 times in the 41 years that we've had it. We've won Tinian San Jose Fiesta Derby 3 times. We've won Rhoda Derby 2 times. So we've been, and plus when you get to this age, it's about the bragging rights, right? And fishermen love to brag. Mm-hmm. And so yes, we're very, very passionate. We're looking forward to the Derby tomorrow. It's a winner take all. It's a lot of money. It's hopefully the Lord blesses us with one last win, or me at least. Yeah.
What do you learn fishing that you don't learn in elected office?
Patience.
Yeah.
And
that's what I learned, because I didn't realize how long it takes to catch a fish. We'll be out there 12 hours, and maybe in the last 2 hours we'll hook, or in the middle of the day in the heat of the sun we'll hook up a fish. But there's hours where you just ride and ride and ride, and you watch
take a nap,
lines.
wake up. Yeah. Take a nap, wake up.
Yeah. Watch your lines in the back, sing, tell stories.
Yeah.
It teaches you patience. You cannot be in a hurry.
Right.
Imagine the ocean, and there's little lines and hooks coming into the sight of the fish. That's why he says that catching a fish is a bonus, but for me, that's why I'm out there. I want to catch that fish.
And another thing you've been involved in is baseball. That's another sport that you're passionate about, and I know something you share with your son and grandsons as well. Yeah, tell us about your time in
growing
that
up.
sport?
Growing up was my favorite sport, right? So I was just a little older to be able to play little leagues when it first started. But my two younger brothers, Tony and Ron, and I actually coached them. I was part of the coaching team because I was a decent baseball player. So I was coaching them, and then started playing a lot after coming back from, even before we went off to college and high school. I played a lot of baseball. I was just a teenager in high school, but I was playing the Island-wide league, right? And I love catching. I was a catcher in both fast pitch softball and baseball. I just love the sport. I mean, people talk about how, when I play the sport, and maybe like I was as an elected official, I was so passionate, I give it 120%, right? And so I play hard, and that has helped me to become a decent player. I was all-star catcher for 9 years in a row and played against regional teams. Played in the mobile games for many years. And had to retire when I was getting too old.
You've lived quite a life in all of those different roles that we just talked about. What do you hope you are remembered for? How do you hope people remember the life that you lived?
Another blessing with this diagnosis and the opportunity to be here, to meet with family and friends, and to hear from family and friends, and messages, phone calls. It's amazing, the comments, the kind words. It's really being appreciated. Is that correct? It's just respected, being known as that maybe I'm not the greatest guy, but that people appreciated what I had to contribute to our community, to the family.
For you, Mrs. Vicky? Mm-hmm. And for you, Mrs. Vicky, how would you see your husband's legacy?
Wow, legacy. It's all about family, Tomas, He's really about taking care of family first, yeah. Although politics took a close first. I had to always push it aside, hey, family first. I mean, when it came to his politics, people, the CNMI people were always, I see, first and foremost in everything he did, this is good for the people, this is going to help our islands, And I would be like, hey, the birthday party, the first Holy Communion, but he was like, okay, you go ahead, babe, and I'll, got to take care of this. But yeah, so the legacy would be a man who really cared for our people of the islands.
Mr. Benavente and Mrs. Benavente, thanks for your time. That's all the questions I had, but I did want to open the floor for anything else you want to share with the public watching. Is there anything you want the Marianas to know?
I was joking, I guess, morbid joke is
what we say.
What we would say nowadays because of my condition, right? And I was telling the kids as they were around us, and said, one of the many different reasons why I have decided against the treatment and decided to stay here and live out whatever it is, that's given to me by the doctors. And I'll say, and also because I don't want to be here when the CNMI government goes down, right? And so and that was a morbid joke, and that's a joke. And really, I really hope to see our leaders get together and resolve these challenges. This is going to be tough. Mm-hmm. There has to be some sacrifices that has to be made. We have to, I wish we can get enough elected officials that doesn't have to worry about doing anything just to get reelected. I wish we can elect enough people that can just make a decision based on what's best for the Commonwealth. Because that, to me, is the only way that we can turn this around. Too often, our elected leaders, that's their policy guide, is how do I get reelected next election? And which most of the time creates the kind of problem we have. You know, for example, we shouldn't have lifted the 72 hours, but because it was 4 days before the election, you know, it's and now the challenges of might end up with 64 hours. I mean, that is just so bad that unless we change that, I just, it's hard for me to accept that that this is our own doing, right? It doesn't have to be. Many years ago, in my early time in the legislature, people asked me, so why are we always introducing bills to amend the bill, and you know, why didn't we just start with a good law? I mean, amend this law, amend that. And that we did so many. But of course, at the time, we were still transitioning, right? I mean, there was a lot of transition during the 80s and 90s. I mean, we were a new government. But one of my answers to that question was, until we elect leaders that are genuinely concerned about the well-being of our people in our islands, we're going to continue to see problems. And I've always wanted to believe that the young generations who are now educated, and the majority of the registered voters are now educated. And now it's time for those educated, younger voters to make a decision that, you know, don't just vote because he's your cousin. Vote because he or she is going to do what's best for the Commonwealth. And I think, Tomas, that if we can do that, we're on our way to improving, resolving the many challenges that we have here in the Commonwealth. And there's many. Thank you.
And that's a beautiful call to action for the next generation that you're leaving them with. So thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Benavente.
Thank you, Tomas.
We appreciate your time. I know
Thank you so much.
We wish your family well, and we're sending prayers to you as well.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you sitting down with us.
Thank you so much.